In the heart of London, beneath the ancient stones of Westminster Abbey, something extraordinary was about to unfold. For centuries, these hallowed walls had witnessed the crowning of kings and queens, but never had they prepared for a moment quite like this one. As the world held its breath and millions of eyes turned toward a single golden carriage making its way through the streets of Britain, two people inside were about to step into history in a way that would move an entire nation to tears. This wasn't just another royal ceremony. This wasn't merely the continuation of a thousand-year-old tradition. This was the moment when William Arthur Philip Lewis and Catherine Elizabeth Middleton would transform from the couple the world had watched fall in love into the symbols of hope, unity, and grace that Britain desperately needed. Their entrance would become more than a walk down an aisle. It would become a bridge between the past and the future, between tradition and modernity, between the crown and the common people. What happened in those precious minutes as they stepped from their carriage and moved toward the Abbey doors would echo through history. The tears that fell, the hearts that swelled, and the moment of pure magic that unfolded would remind the world why some stories are not just witnessed, but felt deep in the soul. This is that story, the story of an entrance that became a legend, told through the eyes of those who were there, those who watched from afar, and those whose lives were touched by the profound beauty of what they witnessed. The golden carriage was approaching. The world was watching. And William and Kate were about to step into their destiny. The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestones of London as Catherine Middleton opened her eyes for the last time as a commoner. In the quiet luxury of the Goring Hotel, where she had spent her final night before becoming the Princess of Wales, Kate lay still for a moment, listening to the distant sounds of a city already buzzing with anticipation. Outside her window, she could hear the faint murmur of crowds gathering, the clip-clop of horses being prepared for the grand procession, and the occasional shout of excitement from early arrivals claiming their spots along the ceremonial route. Her sister Pippa was already awake, moving quietly around the suite as she prepared for what would become one of the most photographed and scrutinized days in recent royal history. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on either of them. This wasn't just Kate's wedding day. It was a moment that would define the future of the British monarchy and capture the hearts of people around the world. Meanwhile, across London at Clarence House, Prince William was experiencing his own mixture of excitement and nerves. He had woken before dawn, unable to sleep through the final hours before the ceremony that would transform not just his personal life, but his role in the institution he had been born to serve. His brother Harry had spent the night at his side, fulfilling his duties as best man with characteristic humor and loyalty. But even Harry's jokes couldn't completely ease the magnitude of what lay ahead. William stepped onto the balcony of Clarence House and looked out over St. James's Park toward Buckingham Palace. The streets below were already lined with people, some of whom had camped overnight in sleeping bags and folding chairs, all hoping to catch a glimpse of history in the making. British flags fluttered from every lamppost, window, and rooftop, creating a sea of red, white, and blue that stretched as far as the eye could see. The prince thought back to the moment he had first laid eyes on Kate at St. Andrews University, when she had walked down a makeshift runway in a charity fashion show wearing a sheer dress that had made his heart skip a beat. Neither of them could have imagined then that their university romance would lead to this moment, a ceremony watched by 2 billion people worldwide, and a love story that would inspire countless others. As William prepared for his ceremonial uniform, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this day. The years of courtship, the media scrutiny, the careful navigation of royal protocol, and the gradual acceptance of Kate into the royal fold had all led to this morning. He thought of his mother, Princess Diana, and how she would have loved Kate, how she would have been beaming with pride, and probably offering last-minute advice about handling the overwhelming attention that would come with royal life. Back at the Goring Hotel, Kate was beginning her transformation from Kate Middleton into Catherine, the future Princess of Wales. Her hair and makeup team had arrived early, led by the talented James Price, who had been entrusted with creating a look that would be timeless, elegant, and appropriate for the solemnity of the occasion, while still allowing Kate's natural beauty to shine through. As Kate sat in the makeup chair, she thought about the dress hanging in the adjoining room, the creation that had been months in the making and was still a closely guarded secret. Designed by Sarah Burton at Alexander McQueen, the dress represented everything Kate hoped to embody as a future princess. Classic elegance with modern touches, respect for British tradition combined with fresh perspective. The decision to choose Alexander McQueen had been significant. The British fashion house represented innovation and artistry, while Sarah Burton's leadership of the brand after the tragic death of founder Lee Alexander McQueen demonstrated resilience and creativity. The dress itself was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, featuring intricate lacework that had been created by hand at the Royal School of Needlework at Hampton Court Palace. Pippa, serving as maid of honor, was also preparing for her role in the ceremony. Her own dress, designed to complement, but not compete with Kate's, had been carefully chosen to reflect the elegance and sophistication of the occasion. The Middleton family had risen to this moment with grace and dignity, understanding that they were not just gaining a son-in-law, but becoming part of an institution that would place them under constant scrutiny. The Queen herself had risen early that morning at Buckingham Palace, where she was overseeing final preparations with the same attention to detail that had characterized her 60-year reign. Elizabeth II understood perhaps better than anyone the significance of this day, not just for her grandson and his bride, but for the future of the monarchy itself. Kate represented a new generation of royals, one that could bridge the gap between tradition and modernity in a way that would ensure the relevance and survival of the institution. As the morning progressed, the streets of London continued to fill with well-wishers from around the world. Tourist buses disgorged visitors from every continent, all hoping to be part of this historic moment. Local residents hung bunting from their windows and set up impromptu street parties along the processional route. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and joy. The media presence was unprecedented. Camera crews from every major network in the world had set up along the route, while photographers with telephoto lenses positioned themselves at strategic points to capture every moment of the day. The technology of 2011 meant that this royal wedding would be shared instantaneously across social media platforms, making it not just a British celebration, but a global phenomenon. Security was tight, but largely invisible, with plainclothes officers mingling with the crowds and snipers positioned on rooftops along the route. The Metropolitan Police had been planning for this day for months, coordinating with intelligence services to ensure the safety of the royal family and the hundreds of thousands of spectators who would line the streets. Inside Westminster Abbey, final preparations were taking place under the watchful eye of the Dean of Westminster. The ancient building, which had hosted coronations and royal weddings for nearly 1,000 years, was being transformed with thousands of flowers, including traditional English roses, lily of the valley, and sweet William, a particularly touching choice given the groom's name. The guest list read like a who's who of world leaders, celebrities, and nobility. From the Crown Prince of Bahrain to David and Victoria Beckham, from the Prime Minister of Canada to Sir Elton John, the Abbey would host an unprecedented gathering of dignitaries and celebrities, all there to witness William and Kate begin their new life together. As the final hour approached, Kate underwent the transformation that millions of young women around the world had been dreaming about. The dress, when finally revealed in its full glory, was even more breathtaking than the carefully guarded sketches had suggested. The bodice, crafted from ivory silk tulle and featuring hand-cut English lace, fit Kate perfectly, while the 9-foot train flowed behind her like liquid silk. The veil, held in place by the Cartier halo tiara loaned by the Queen, was a masterpiece in itself. Made of silk tulle and featuring hand-embroidered flowers, it framed Kate's face perfectly while maintaining the royal dignity that the occasion demanded. As she looked at herself in the mirror for the first time in her complete wedding ensemble, Kate felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. William, meanwhile, was putting on his ceremonial uniform as Colonel of the Irish Guards, a red tunic adorned with gold braiding and medals that reflected his military service and royal status. The uniform had been tailored specifically for this day, and as he fastened each button and adjusted each decoration, he felt himself transforming from Prince William into the man who would one day be king. The final moments at both locations were filled with last-minute adjustments, heartfelt conversations, and the nervous energy that accompanies any wedding, royal or otherwise. Kate's father, Michael Middleton, arrived at the hotel dressed in his morning coat, ready to fulfill the honor of walking his daughter down the aisle and officially presenting her to the royal family and the world. As the appointed hour drew near, the streets of London reached a fever pitch of excitement. The crowds, some of whom had been waiting for hours, pressed against the barriers lining the processional route, waving flags and cheering even though the main event had yet to begin. Street vendors sold commemorative items, from tea towels featuring the couple's image to replica engagement rings that sparkled in the morning sun. The moment had almost arrived. In a few short minutes, Kate would step into the carriage that would carry her to Westminster Abbey and into her new life as a member of the British royal family. The world was watching, history was waiting, and love was about to triumph in the most spectacular way possible. The transformation was complete. Catherine Middleton was ready to become Catherine, Princess of Wales, and the journey that would move millions to tears was about to begin. The moment Kate stepped out of the Goring Hotel, the world collectively held its breath. Photographers who had been waiting for hours suddenly sprang into action, their cameras clicking in rapid succession as they captured the first glimpse of the wedding dress that would become iconic. The morning light caught the intricate lace detailing of her gown, making it shimmer like moonlight on water as she moved gracefully toward the waiting Rolls-Royce Phantom 6. Her father, Michael Middleton, walked beside her with visible pride and emotion. This man who had built a successful party supply business from nothing, who had worked tirelessly to provide his children with the best education and opportunities, was now escorting his daughter to marry the future King of England. The magnitude of the moment was not lost on him as he helped Kate arrange her train before they settled into the car that would carry them to Westminster Abbey. The route from the Goring Hotel to Westminster Abbey had been carefully planned to maximize the spectacle while ensuring security. As their car pulled away from the hotel, Kate and her father could see the crowds lining both sides of the street, their faces bright with excitement and joy. British flags waved enthusiastically, and the cheers were so loud they could be heard even inside the soundproof vehicle. Kate had spent months preparing for this moment, not just in terms of the ceremony itself, but in understanding what it meant to join the British royal family. She had studied protocol, learned about the history of the monarchy, and spent countless hours with royal staff understanding her future role. But nothing could have fully prepared her for the overwhelming emotion of this journey through the streets of London. As they traveled down Grosvenor Place toward Hyde Park Corner, Kate could see people hanging from windows, standing on balconies, and even perched in trees, all hoping to catch a glimpse of her on this historic day. Children waved small flags while their parents held up cameras and phones, desperate to capture their own piece of royal history. Meanwhile, Prince William had already arrived at Westminster Abbey through a different route, accompanied by his brother Prince Harry. The two princes had traveled in a Bentley state limousine, acknowledging the crowds with waves and smiles that betrayed both their excitement and their nerves. William, in his Scarlet Irish Guards colonel's uniform, looked every inch the future king, while Harry, also in military uniform as his brother's best man, provided moral support and the occasional moment of levity. Inside Westminster Abbey, the congregation was taking their seats in order of precedence, a process that had been planned down to the minute. Foreign royalty, heads of state, celebrities, and personal friends of the couple filled the ancient pews, creating an atmosphere of anticipation that was almost electric. The Dean of Westminster moved through final preparations, ensuring that every detail of the ceremony would proceed flawlessly. The Queen had arrived earlier, dressed in a vibrant yellow Angela Kelly ensemble that stood out beautifully against the Abbey's ancient stones. Her choice of color was deliberate. Yellow symbolized happiness and optimism, perfectly capturing the mood of the day. She took her place in the front row with Prince Philip, Prince Charles, and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, representing the continuity of the monarchy and the family that Kate was about to join. Back in the Rolls-Royce, Kate was experiencing a mixture of emotions that would be familiar to any bride, but amplified by the extraordinary circumstances. She thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment, from her middle-class upbringing in Berkshire to her university years at St. Andrews, where she had met William, to the long courtship that had played out under intense media scrutiny. The crowds grew thicker as they approached Westminster, with people pressed against the barriers 10 deep in some places. Police horses stood at regular intervals, their riders maintaining order while also enjoying the festive atmosphere. The Metropolitan Police had deployed thousands of officers for the event, but their presence was largely welcomed by a crowd that was overwhelmingly joyful and peaceful. As Kate's car turned onto Parliament Street, she could see Westminster Abbey in the distance, its Gothic towers reaching toward the sky like ancient fingers pointing to heaven. The building, which had been the site of every British coronation since 1066, was about to host another moment that would echo through history. The site of the Abbey, dressed with flowers and, alive with anticipation, made the reality of what was happening hit home for Kate in a way that months of preparation hadn't quite achieved. The journey was taking longer than usual due to the crowds, but neither Kate nor her father minded. This was likely to be the last time Kate would ever travel through London as a private citizen, and she wanted to savor every moment of it. She waved to the crowds through the window, her smile genuine and warm, causing eruptions of cheers wherever she was spotted. Social media was exploding with real-time updates and photographs as people shared their excitement with the world. The hashtag for the royal wedding was trending globally on Twitter, while Facebook was flooded with status updates from people expressing their joy and anticipation. This was perhaps the first truly social media royal wedding, allowing people from around the world to participate in the celebration in ways that had never been possible before. Television coverage of the journey was being broadcast live to an estimated 2 billion viewers worldwide, making it one of the most watched events in television history. Commentators provided a running narrative of the procession, explaining the significance of various landmarks and the traditions surrounding royal weddings. The BBC's coverage, in particular, was being shared with networks around the world, making it a truly global celebration of British culture and tradition. Inside the Abbey, Prince William was feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement that any groom would recognize. He stood at the altar with Prince Harry, occasionally glancing toward the Abbey's great west door where Kate would soon appear. The music from the Abbey's choir filled the ancient space with ethereal beauty, adding to the solemnity and grandeur of the occasion. The congregation included faces from around the world, from the Sultan of Brunei to tennis player Venus Williams, from the Governor-General of Canada to composer Andrew Lloyd Webber. Each guest understood that they were witnessing history in the making, a moment that would be remembered and discussed for generations to come. As Kate's car drew closer to Westminster Abbey, the crowds became increasingly excited. Street vendors sold commemorative items at a frantic pace, while pub owners prepared for the celebrations that would follow the ceremony. The entire city had embraced the royal wedding with an enthusiasm that surprised even the most optimistic observers. The police motorcycle escort that surrounded Kate's car maintained perfect formation, their riders trained to handle the crowds while ensuring the safety and security of the bride and her father. The precision of their movements was a testament to months of careful planning and rehearsal, ensuring that every aspect of the day would proceed smoothly. Kate could now see the trees of Parliament Square, where even more crowds had gathered despite being further from the Abbey. The enthusiasm was infectious, and she found herself genuinely moved by the warmth and affection being shown by complete strangers who had come out to celebrate her wedding day. The car slowed as it approached the Abbey, and Kate could see the red carpet that had been laid out leading to the Great West Door. Television cameras were positioned at strategic points to capture every moment of her arrival, while photographers with long lenses waited for the perfect shot that would grace the front pages of newspapers around the world. Michael Middleton squeezed his daughter's hand as they prepared to step out of the car and onto the world stage. This successful businessman who had always valued privacy and discretion was about to walk his daughter down the aisle in front of billions of viewers, but his focus was entirely on Kate and ensuring that her day was perfect. The Abbey bells were ringing out across London, their ancient voices announcing to the city and the world that something extraordinary was about to happen. The sound carried across the Thames, through the parks and streets of the capital, and into the hearts of everyone who heard it. As the car came to a final stop outside Westminster Abbey, Kate took a deep breath and prepared to step into her new life. The journey from the Goring Hotel had been more than just a ride through London. It had been a passage from one world to another, from private citizen to public figure, from Kate Middleton to Catherine, future Princess of Wales. The door of the Rolls-Royce opened, and Kate placed her foot on the red carpet for the first time as a royal bride. The moment that would move millions to tears was about to begin, and the world was watching with bated breath as history prepared to unfold in the most beautiful way possible. The moment Kate stepped out of the car onto the red carpet outside Westminster Abbey, a collective gasp seemed to rise from the thousands of people who had gathered to witness this historic moment. The morning sunlight caught the intricate lacework of her dress, making it appear as though she was emerging from a fairy tale into reality. Camera flashes erupted like lightning across the scene as photographers captured the first full view of the dress that would be analyzed, admired, and copied for decades to come. Kate stood for a moment on the red carpet, allowing her dress to settle around her while her father stepped out beside her. The sight of her was breathtaking. The ivory silk tulle gown with its hand-cut English lace bodice and 9-foot train created a silhouette that was both timeless and thoroughly modern. The Cartier halo tiara, loaned by the Queen, caught the light and seemed to give Kate an almost ethereal glow as she prepared to enter the abbey. Her sister Pippa, who had arrived moments earlier, immediately moved to help arrange Kate's train. Pippa's own dress, a form-fitting white cowl-neck design, had been carefully chosen to complement Kate's gown while ensuring she would play a supporting rather than competing role. The sight of the two sisters working together to perfect Kate's appearance was a touching reminder that beneath all the royal protocol and global attention, this was still a family celebration. The bridesmaids and page boys, all children from both the royal family and the Middleton family, had already taken their positions. Among them was Prince William's cousin Zara Phillips's daughter and several children from Kate's extended family. They stood in perfect formation, their miniature wedding outfits creating an adorable contrast to the grandeur surrounding them. Michael Middleton offered his arm to his daughter, and together they approached the great west door of Westminster Abbey. The ancient building had been transformed for the occasion, with thousands of English field maple trees lining the aisle and creating a natural cathedral within the stone walls. The scent of lily of the valley, Kate's favorite flower, filled the air, while the soft light filtering through the abbey's stained glass windows created an almost magical atmosphere. As they reached the threshold of the abbey, Kate paused for one last moment as a private citizen. In a few steps, she would enter one of the most famous churches in the world and begin the ceremony that would transform her into a member of the British royal family. The weight of this moment was enormous, but Kate's composure never wavered. She had been preparing for this day not just practically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. Inside the abbey, the congregation rose as one as the Dean of Westminster announced Kate's arrival. The sight that greeted the 2,000 guests was one of pure elegance and grace. The abbey's choir began to sing, their voices soaring into the vaulted ceiling and creating an atmosphere of reverence and celebration that perfectly captured the mood of the day. Prince William, standing at the altar with Prince Harry beside him, turned to see his bride for the first time in her wedding dress. The expression on his face was one of pure love and admiration, and those close enough to see him later reported that his eyes welled up with tears at the sight of Kate walking toward him. This private moment between the couple, played out in front of billions of viewers, reminded everyone watching that beneath all the pomp and ceremony, this was fundamentally a love story. Kate began her walk down the aisle with her father, her steps measured and graceful despite the length of her train and the weight of the moment. The abbey's aisle stretched for what seemed like miles in front of her, lined with the faces of world leaders, celebrities, friends, and family members, all standing in her honor. The music swelled around her, creating a soundtrack for what was undoubtedly the most important walk of her life. As she moved down the aisle, Kate's eyes remained focused primarily on William, though she acknowledged the warm smiles and nods of approval from the guests she passed. The Queen, resplendent in her yellow ensemble, watched with visible pride and satisfaction as Kate approached. This was the moment Elizabeth II had been hoping for, the arrival of a new generation that would help secure the future of the monarchy she had served for nearly 60 years. The television cameras captured every detail of Kate's progress down the aisle, from the intricate beading on her dress to the way her veil flowed behind her like a cloud. Commentators around the world struggled to find adequate words to describe the scene unfolding before them, many simply falling silent to allow viewers to absorb the beauty and significance of the moment for themselves. Halfway down the aisle, Kate passed the pew where her mother Carol was seated, looking elegant in a sky-blue Catherine Walker coat dress and Philip Tracy hat. The pride and emotion on Carol's face was evident to everyone watching, and many viewers found themselves moved to tears by the sight of a mother watching her daughter marry into royalty. This moment encapsulated the fairy tale nature of Kate's journey from middle-class upbringing to royal bride. The international guests watched with fascination as this uniquely British ceremony unfolded before them. For many, this was their first experience of the pageantry and tradition that the British monarchy could provide, and they were clearly impressed by the spectacle. The ceremony was being broadcast live to their home countries, where millions more were watching and marveling at the grandeur of the occasion. As Kate drew closer to the altar, the details of her dress became more apparent to those in the front rows of the abbey. The lacework, created by artisans at the Royal School of Needlework, told a story of British craftsmanship and tradition. The rose, thistle, daffodil, and shamrock motifs represented the four nations of the United Kingdom, while the intricate hand-stitching represented hours of painstaking work by some of the most skilled seamstresses in the world. Prince William waited at the altar, his military uniform making him look every inch the future king. His face showed a mixture of love, pride, and nervous anticipation that any groom would recognize. But there was also something more, an awareness that this moment was about more than just his personal happiness. He was about to marry not just the woman he loved, but someone who would help him serve his country and the Commonwealth for the rest of his life. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Rowan Williams, stood ready to perform the ceremony that would unite William and Kate in marriage. His presence added a spiritual dimension to the proceedings that grounded the spectacle in the real purpose of the day, the joining of two people in love before God and their community. As Kate reached the final few steps before the altar, the music began to fade, and the abbey fell into a reverent silence broken only by the rustle of her dress and the soft footfalls on the ancient stone floor. This was the culmination of a journey that had begun years earlier at St. Andrews University, continued through a decade of courtship under media scrutiny, and now reached its climax in front of the watching world. Michael Middleton prepared to hand his daughter over to Prince William, a symbolic gesture that had been performed countless times throughout history, but never in quite these circumstances. As they reached the altar, Kate turned to give her father a kiss on the cheek, a tender moment that spoke to their close relationship and his support throughout her journey to this day. Prince William stepped forward to greet Kate, and the look that passed between them was one of pure love and understanding. In that moment, all the protocol and ceremony faded away, and they were simply two people in love about to begin their life together. The congregation, the television cameras, and the billions of viewers around the world all seemed to fade into the background as William and Kate stood together at the altar. The sight of them together, he in his scarlet military uniform, and she in her ivory silk gown, created an image that would be reproduced on everything from postage stamps to commemorative plates for years to come. But more than that, it represented hope for the future of the monarchy and the continuation of a love story that had captured the imagination of people around the world. As Kate handed her bouquet to Pippa and took her place beside William, the formal ceremony was about to begin. The Archbishop of Canterbury opened his order of service, and Westminster Abbey prepared to witness another royal wedding that would take its place in the long history of British royal ceremonies. The moment that millions had been waiting for was finally here, and the magic that was about to unfold would move people to tears around the world. As the Archbishop of Canterbury began the wedding ceremony with the traditional words, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in the sight of God." A profound silence fell over Westminster Abbey. The ancient words, spoken countless times before in this sacred space, seemed to carry extra weight on this particular morning. The congregation of 2,000, representing the highest levels of society from around the world, listened with rapt attention as the ceremony that would change the course of British royal history began to unfold. William and Kate stood side by side at the altar, their hands occasionally brushing together in small moments of connection that spoke to their genuine affection for each other. Despite the enormous pressure and scrutiny of the moment, they both appeared calm and focused, drawing strength from their love and their shared commitment to the life they were about to begin together. The Archbishop's voice echoed through the abbey as he spoke of marriage as a gift from God, designed for the joy and blessing of mankind. His words took on special significance given the unique circumstances of this particular union, a marriage that would not only unite two people in love, but would also have profound implications for the future of the British monarchy and the Commonwealth nations. When the time came for the formal declaration of intent, the Archbishop turned to William and asked, "William Arthur Philip Lewis, will you take Catherine Elizabeth to be your wife? Will you love her, comfort her, honor and protect her, and, forsaking all others, be faithful to her as long as you both shall live?" William's response, delivered in a clear, strong voice, was heard around the world. "I will." The same question was then posed to Kate, and her response was equally clear and confident. "I will," she said, her voice carrying across the abbey and into the hearts of millions of viewers who had invested emotionally in her journey from university student to royal bride. Her composure in this moment of enormous pressure demonstrated the strength and grace that had attracted William to her in the first place. The exchange of vows was perhaps the most moving part of the ceremony. William and Kate had chosen to use the traditional Church of England marriage vows, a decision that connected their wedding to centuries of British royal tradition while also grounding the ceremony in familiar, timeless language that resonated with people of all backgrounds. When William began his vows, saying, "I, William Arthur Philip Lewis, take thee, Catherine Elizabeth, to be my wedded wife," there was something deeply moving about hearing the future king make these ancient promises. His voice, clear and unwavering, carried the weight of both personal commitment and public duty. He was not just promising to love and cherish Kate as his wife, but also accepting her as his partner in the unique role they would play in British public life. Kate's response was equally powerful, as she repeated the traditional vows, promising to love and to cherish William till death do us part. Many viewers found themselves moved to tears by the sincerity and grace with which she spoke. Here was a young woman who had grown up in a middle-class family in Berkshire, now standing in Westminster Abbey making promises that would shape the rest of her life and influence the future of an ancient monarchy. The ring ceremony provided another deeply emotional moment. Prince Harry, in his role as best man, stepped forward with the ring that William would place on Kate's finger. The ring, made from Welsh gold that had been given to the royal family by the people of Wales, carried its own symbolism and history. As William took Kate's hand and slowly slid the ring onto her finger, repeating the words, "With this ring I thee wed," the ancient gesture took on new meaning for a modern audience. Interestingly, William had chosen not to wear a wedding ring himself, a personal decision that reflected his individual preferences while also following the tradition of many men of his generation. Kate accepted this choice with understanding, focusing on the significance of receiving the ring rather than the asymmetry of the exchange. The moment the ring was placed on Kate's finger, she officially became Catherine, Princess of Wales, though she would be known as the Duchess of Cambridge. The transformation was complete, though it had been accomplished not through dramatic gesture but through the quiet exchange of ancient words and symbols that had united couples for centuries. The reading chosen for the ceremony came from Romans 12, delivered by Kate's brother James Middleton. His presence in this role was significant, representing the inclusion of the Middleton family in this most royal of occasions. James, who had struggled with dyslexia throughout his childhood, delivered the reading with confidence and clarity, his words about love being patient and kind resonating perfectly with the atmosphere of celebration and commitment. As James read the familiar words about love never failing, many in the congregation reflected on the journey that had brought William and Kate to this moment. Their relationship had been tested by separation, media scrutiny, and the pressures of royal life, yet they had emerged stronger and more committed to each other. The reading seemed to speak directly to their experience and their hopes for the future. The Abbey Choir, accompanied by the London Chamber Orchestra, provided musical interludes that added to the spiritual and emotional impact of the ceremony. Their performance of hymns like "Guide Me," "O Thou Great Redeemer," and "Love Divine," all loves excelling, filled the ancient space with glorious sound that seemed to lift the entire ceremony to a higher plane. Throughout the ceremony, the television cameras captured not just the main participants, but also the reactions of the guests. The Queen was seen following along in her order of service, occasionally smiling at particularly touching moments. Prince Charles and Camilla watched with obvious pride and affection, while Prince Philip maintained his characteristic, composed demeanor while clearly enjoying the proceedings. The Middleton family pew provided some of the most emotionally charged moments captured by the cameras. Carol Middleton was visibly moved throughout the ceremony, occasionally wiping away tears of joy and pride. Michael Middleton maintained his composure, but couldn't hide his emotional investment in the proceedings. These moments reminded viewers that beneath all the royal protocol and global attention, this was fundamentally a family celebration. The international guests watched with fascination as this uniquely British ceremony unfolded. Many were experiencing the pageantry of a British royal wedding for the first time, and the combination of ancient tradition with genuine emotion clearly made a profound impression on them. As the Archbishop pronounced William and Kate husband and wife, a moment of anticipation gripped the Abbey. The words that officially united them in marriage seemed to hang in the air for a moment before being absorbed by the stone walls that had witnessed so many similar moments throughout history. But this moment felt different, charged with the hope and excitement that this young couple represented for the future. The blessing that followed was delivered with special emphasis on the unique role that William and Kate would play in public life. The Archbishop spoke of marriage as a source of strength and support that would help them serve their people with wisdom and compassion. His words acknowledged that their marriage would be lived not in private but in the public eye, with the hopes and expectations of millions resting on their shoulders. As the ceremony moved toward its conclusion, the abbey began to fill with a sense of celebration and joy that had been building throughout the service. The formal, ritualized beginning had given way to genuine emotion and happiness as the reality of what had been accomplished began to sink in for everyone present. The signing of the register took place in the intimate setting of St. Edward's Chapel behind the high altar. This moment, captured by photographers but conducted away from the main congregation, provided William and Kate with a few minutes of relative privacy in which to absorb what had just happened to them. Surrounded by their immediate families and closest friends, they signed the documents that would legally confirm their union. When they emerged from the chapel as husband and wife, the atmosphere in the abbey had shifted from solemnity to celebration. The congregation rose as one, and the organ began to play the recessional music that would accompany them on their journey back down the aisle as the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. The transformation was complete. Kate Middleton had become Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Prince William had gained not just a wife, but a partner who would help him prepare for the day when he would become king. As they prepared to leave the abbey and greet the crowds outside, they both understood that their real work was just beginning. As William and Kate emerged from Westminster Abbey as husband and wife, the scene that greeted them was nothing short of magical. The ancient bells of the abbey rang out across London, their joyful peals joined by church bells from across the city in a symphony of celebration that could be heard for miles. The crowds that had been waiting patiently for hours erupted in cheers so loud they seemed to shake the very stones of the historic building. Kate, now officially the Duchess of Cambridge, walked beside her new husband with a radiance that was visible even from a distance. Her dress, which had been the subject of intense speculation for months, had exceeded every expectation, and the sight of her in her full wedding regalia against the backdrop of Westminster Abbey created an image that would be remembered for generations. The couple paused at the top of the Abbey steps, allowing the photographers to capture the official portraits that would grace the front pages of newspapers around the world. William, handsome in his Irish Guards colonel's uniform, stood proudly beside his bride, their happiness evident in every gesture and glance they exchanged. The procession route back to Buckingham Palace had been lined with flag-waving crowds since dawn, and as the newlyweds' carriage appeared, the celebrations reached fever pitch. The 1902 state landau, drawn by 4 magnificent Windsor gray horses, carried them through streets packed with well-wishers from around the world. The open carriage allowed perfect views of the couple, and they waved continuously to the crowds, clearly moved by the overwhelming display of affection and support. Along the Mall, the scene was particularly spectacular. The broad avenue, lined with Union Jack flags and plane trees in their spring foliage, provided the perfect backdrop for a royal procession. Spectators had claimed their spots hours earlier, and many had camped overnight to secure the best views. The atmosphere was electric with joy and celebration, creating memories that would last a lifetime for those fortunate enough to be there. Television coverage of the procession reached an estimated global audience of 2 billion people, making it one of the most watched events in television history. In homes, pubs, and community centers around the world, people gathered to witness this fairy tale moment, many finding themselves unexpectedly moved to tears by the sheer joy and romance of the occasion. Social media platforms exploded with real-time reactions to the wedding and procession. Twitter was flooded with messages of congratulations and admiration for Kate's dress, while Facebook saw millions of status updates from people expressing their excitement about the royal wedding. This was perhaps the first truly global social media celebration, allowing people from every continent to participate in the joy of the moment. As the carriage made its way through the crowds, William and Kate seemed genuinely amazed by the scale of the celebration. Kate, in particular, appeared moved by the warmth of the reception, waving and smiling with natural grace that suggested she was already comfortable in her new role as a member of the royal family. The international media coverage was unprecedented, with news organizations from every continent providing live commentary and analysis. Royal correspondents who had covered the family for decades struggled to find adequate words to describe the spectacle unfolding before them, many commenting that they had never seen such genuine public enthusiasm for a royal event. When the procession reached Buckingham Palace, the crowds in front of the building were so thick that it was impossible to see the pavement. People had traveled from around the world to be part of this moment, and their patience was about to be rewarded with the appearance the entire nation had been waiting for. Inside the palace, the Queen was preparing to host a reception for the wedding guests. But first, there was the matter of the balcony appearance that had become a tradition for royal weddings. The crowds outside were chanting for the couple to appear, their voices growing louder and more insistent as the minutes passed. When William and Kate finally stepped onto the famous balcony, accompanied by the immediate royal family and the wedding party, the roar from the crowd below was deafening. The sight of the newlyweds standing on the balcony where so many historic moments had been shared with the British people created an instant connection between the monarchy and the nation. The moment everyone had been waiting for came when William and Kate shared their first kiss as a married couple in public view. The crowd fell silent for a split second in anticipation before erupting in the loudest cheers of the day. This simple, romantic gesture, played out in front of hundreds of thousands of people and broadcast around the world, encapsulated everything that made this day so special. The kiss was actually repeated at the crowd's insistence, creating a moment of pure joy and intimacy that seemed to dissolve the barriers between the royal family and the people they served. Kate's spontaneous laughter and William's genuine smile showed that despite all the protocol and formality, this was still fundamentally a celebration of love. The flypast by the Royal Air Force provided a stirring finale to the public celebrations. Historic aircraft, including a Lancaster bomber from the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, soared over the palace in precise formation, their engines roaring overhead as the crowd watched in awe. The sight of these legendary aircraft against the backdrop of Buckingham Palace created a powerful reminder of British heritage and tradition. As the aircraft disappeared into the distance, the official public celebrations drew to a close, but the private celebrations were just beginning. Inside Buckingham Palace, the Queen hosted an intimate reception for the wedding guests, providing an opportunity for more personal congratulations and celebrations away from the public eye. The wedding breakfast, as royal wedding receptions are traditionally called, featured a menu that combined traditional British cuisine with modern touches, reflecting Kate's desire to bring contemporary elements to royal traditions. The cake, created by Fiona Cairns, was a traditional fruit cake decorated with cream and white icing, providing a centerpiece for the celebration that honored both tradition and the couple's personal preferences. Prince Charles gave a speech that was both touching and humorous, welcoming Kate into the royal family, while sharing fond memories of William's childhood. His words reflected the genuine warmth with which Kate had been received by the royal family, and his confidence in her ability to support William in his future role as king. The evening reception, hosted by Prince Charles at Clarence House, was a more relaxed affair that allowed the couple to celebrate with their closest friends and family members. The guest list was much smaller, consisting of about 300 of their nearest and dearest, creating an atmosphere that was both intimate and joyful. Prince Harry's best man speech was reportedly both hilarious and heartfelt, drawing on years of brotherly rivalry and affection to create a tribute to William that had guests laughing and crying in equal measure. The bond between the two princes was evident to everyone present, and Harry's obvious happiness for his brother added another layer of emotion to an already emotional day. As the evening wore on, the celebrations continued with dancing and entertainment that reflected both the couple's personal tastes and the significance of the occasion. The party continued well into the night, with guests reluctant to bring such a perfect day to an end. Meanwhile, across Britain and around the world, millions of people were hosting their own celebrations in honor of the royal wedding. Street parties had been organized in towns and villages throughout the United Kingdom, bringing communities together in a display of shared joy and national pride that hadn't been seen for decades. The economic impact of the wedding was enormous, with tourists flooding into Britain to be part of the celebrations and retailers reporting massive sales of commemorative items. The positive publicity generated by the wedding was estimated to be worth hundreds of millions of pounds to the British economy, demonstrating that the monarchy remained a powerful force for promoting Britain around the world. International reaction to the wedding was overwhelmingly positive, with world leaders sending messages of congratulations and media outlets around the globe praising the spectacle and romance of the occasion. The wedding had succeeded in presenting Britain at its very best, combining ancient tradition with modern values in a way that appealed to people of all ages and backgrounds. As the day drew to a close and William and Kate prepared to begin their married life together, the success of their wedding was evident in the smiles on faces around the world. They had given millions of people a day of pure joy and hope, reminding everyone that love, commitment, and tradition still had the power to move hearts and unite people across all boundaries. The fairy tale was complete, but, in many ways, it was also just the beginning. William and Kate had shown the world that the British monarchy could evolve while maintaining its essential character, and their obvious love for each other provided hope for the future of an ancient institution. The tears of joy that had been shed on this magical day were a testament to the power of love to inspire and unite people, creating memories that would be treasured for generations to come.